Hello, and welcome to today's webinar on ESTCP funding opportunities. My name is Stephanie Smith, and I will be moderating today's session. We will get started in a few moments. While we wait for others to log on, I would like to cover a few logistical items. Today's broadcast will be listen only. We will have a question and answer period at the end of the presentation. You may submit questions by using the chat box on the left-hand portion of the screen. You do not need to wait until the Q&A period to submit your questions. In fact, we encourage you to submit them in advance of that session. The phone lines will remain listen-only throughout the presentation, so we will not be taking any questions verbally. We will not be able to answer questions about specific proposal ideas or technologies during this webinar. If you run into any technical difficulties involving the presentation or call-in line, please contact the ReadyTalk technical support as noted in the meeting confirmation email. Please note that both the audio and the presentation of today's session will be archived on our solicitation webpage in case you would like to refer to them in the future. Today's speakers are Dr. Ann Andrews, the Director of ESTCP, and Dr. Andrea Leeson, the Deputy Director of ESTCP and Environmental Restoration Program Manager. Before I turn it over to Ann and Andrea, I remind phone participants that this is a listen-only session, and to submit questions, please use the chat box in the lower left-hand corner of the screen. Ann?
Thank you, Stephanie, and welcome to today's webinar on ESTCP funding opportunities for FY 2017. Before we dive into the process of the solicitation, I want to cover a few background charts about ESTCP itself. In our office, we run two programs that you may have heard of. CERTIP is a science and technology program which funds basic and applied research and advanced technology development. ESTCP funds demonstration and validation. And today's webinar is specifically focused on ESTCP demonstration opportunities. Our programs respond broadly to two large buckets of DoD's environmental requirements. The first has to do with the reduction of future and current liabilities. Reduction of current liability is focused on cleanup of contamination from past practices, including groundwater, soils, sediments, unexploded ordnance, and emerging contaminants. And the reduction of future liability is focused on eliminating from our processes, our industrial processes, pollutants and hazardous materials in manufacturing, maintenance, and operations. The second main driver that we respond to has to do with the sustainability of DoD's ranges, facilities, and operations. And this includes a wide variety of topics such as marine mammals, threatened and endangered species, invasive species, air and dust emissions, unexploded ordnance and munitions constituents on our ranges, installation energy, noise, and so forth. To address this wide variety of requirements, we structure our program management as shown on this chart. We have 5 program areas in ESTCP: weapon systems and platforms, energy and water, environmental restoration, munitions response, and resource conservation and climate change. And the solicitation is structured parallel to these program areas. Now I'll talk a little bit about ESTCP in general. The program goals of ESTCP are to move technologies from the laboratory to the real-world environment. We demonstrate innovative, cost-effective environmental and installation energy technologies to capitalize on past investments. And we promote implementation, either through finding pathways of direct technology insertion into DoD's processes or gaining acceptance for services that we buy back from the private sector. ESTCP demonstrations target technologies that have achieved proof of concept and would benefit significantly from a demonstration under real-world conditions on a DoD installation. Technologies typically will require a demonstration to properly assess the cost and performance of the technology in real-world conditions where DoD would use it, and will utilize the information from a demonstration to accelerate commercialization and broader adoption. Mature commercial technologies already in use or with well-established operational cost and performance are not appropriate for demonstration and validation under ESTCP. In ESTCP, when we start a project, we partner with stakeholders and test facilities at DoD facilities, getting together developers, regulators, and end users. We validate the operational cost and performance of a technology, and we identify market opportunities to move that technology into broader acceptance. The basic requirements of an ESTCP project that you should keep in mind as you're preparing a proposal is that these are formal demonstrations. We begin with a formal demonstration plan which has detailed performance objectives. And here we expect that this will describe what constitutes success, what data you would gather to evaluate success, and how that evaluation would be done. And these demonstration plans are subject to an independent review by experts that are on the ESTCP staff and require formal approval from ESTCP. Then you do the execution of the technology demonstration where you gather the cost and performance data. And the ultimate product of all ESTCP demonstrations are written reports on cost and performance, both a detailed technical report and a cost and performance summary report that's suitable for end users to make a decision about whether a technology is useful to them. And finally, successful projects are expected to support transition, gaining regulatory and end user acceptance, perhaps producing guidance and training, depending on the audience that's intended. Now we'll talk a little bit about the ESTCP solicitation process. When we put out the solicitation, we put out actually 3 separate solicitations. One is a call for proposals from the Defense Department. One is a broad agency announcement to which universities, private corporations can respond, and one is a call to DoD federal organizations outside the DoD. All 3 calls have a parallel process for evaluation of proposals in which we ask first for a brief pre-proposal. That then is evaluated by ESTCP, and based on that evaluation we either request or not request a full proposal. All of those who are asked to provide a full proposal are also asked to come in and give a formal oral briefing to ESTCP and our technical committees, and the selections are based on those proposals and oral briefings. The next chart covers the schedule for this year's solicitation. The solicitations were released in early February. Pre-proposals will be due on April 5th, 2 o'clock Eastern Time. We will request full proposals by the end of June. Full proposals will be due sometime in August, with briefings before the ESTCP Technical Committee to take place in September. Project selections will take place in October, and project initiation will begin in the spring of 2017, pending receipt of funds. The calls for proposals differ slightly, and that's what the next 2 charts will talk about. The DoD call for proposals addresses broad DoD environmental requirements. So the topic areas that are applicable to the DoD solicitation are generally quite broad on the environmental side. And as we showed in the flow chart, then you will be asked to submit a short written pre-proposal from which we will request a full proposal, and with that request will come any sort of questions that we want to make sure that you cover sufficiently in your full proposal. And selections will be based on the full proposal and the oral presentation. The call for the broad agency announcement and the federal organizations outside DoD varies a little bit from this. The call for technologies is somewhat more specific. The topic areas are more narrowly defined. Again, we ask for a short written pre-proposal from which we will request full proposals and request any modifications or questions to be addressed. Proposals for which we request a full proposal will be assigned a DoD liaison. This person is responsible for helping with site selection, communication with installations, and ultimately technology transition. They can be useful for identifying the types of information that need to come out of a demonstration that will be important to their user community. And then finally, upon the selection will be based upon the full proposal and the oral presentation. Now I'm going to turn it over to Andrea, who will walk through the topic areas on the environmental solicitation.
Thank you, Ann. Under our environmental technology topics, we have 5 topics that I'll talk about today. The first one is in situ management of contaminated aquatic sediments. The objective of this technology is to demonstrate in situ technologies that address the management, risk characterization, remediation, or monitoring of sediments contaminated with PAHs, PCBs, heavy metals, or mixtures of any of these compounds. We have 4 specific demonstrations that are of interest. First are demonstrations that facilitate the application and commercialization of passive samplers, demonstration of tools to evaluate amendment placement, demonstration of new monitoring tools to reliably predict the long-term performance of remedies and the expected long-term risk reduction, and finally, demonstration of technologies or tools that address the critical needs for advancing the regulatory acceptance and implementation of measures of bioavailability into contaminated sediments cleanup activities. Contaminated marine, estuarine, brackish, or freshwater sediments are all of interest. The next topic area is to reduce source loading of munitions constituents, and the objective of this topic area is to demonstrate innovative tools, methodologies, or technologies that can reduce source loading of munitions constituents during standard DoD operations and demilitarization activities. Specifically, the technologies of interest are those that will prevent the migration of munitions constituents once they're actually released from the munitions. Constituents of concern include perchlorate, RDX, HMX, TNT, DNT, as well as some of the insensitive munitions compounds such as NTO and DNAN. Please note that CERTIP and ESTCP held a workshop in July 2015 addressing issues associated with management of munitions constituents. And we prepared a summary report of the results of this workshop, which can be found on our website, and you can find a link in the topic area that will take you directly to that report. Proposers are strongly encouraged to review the workshop report before submitting. Our next topic area is detection, classification, and remediation of military munitions in the underwater environment. And the objective of this topic area is to demonstrate technologies to detect, classify, and remediate military munitions found at underwater sites. Technologies that will facilitate management of underwater munition sites also are of interest. Capabilities are needed for a wide variety of aquatic environments, including ponds, lakes, rivers, estuaries, and coastal and open ocean areas. The munitions of interest range from small projectiles and mortars to large bombs, although proposals do not need to address the entire range of potential munitions. Our next topic area is Fugitive Dust Technologies, Methodologies, and Tools for DoD Installations. And the objective of this topic area is to demonstrate and validate technologies, methodologies, and tools that advance the management of fugitive dust emissions from DoD lands. Demonstrations should be able to validate the performance across the DoD complex of installations and specifically address DoD unique dust emissions issues. 3 areas are of particular interest and include fugitive dust monitoring technologies, fugitive dust source characterization and generation approaches, as well as user-friendly transport models for fugitive dust. The final topic area is ecosystem process model intercomparison, and the objectives of this topic area are to demonstrate and validate ecosystem process models using a cross-model comparison approach, as well as to determine their usefulness to address management questions on DoD installations in the United States. We anticipate a 2-phased approach to this issue, including first a model performance phase, followed by a model demonstration phase. Proposers are encouraged to propose multiple models to improve the efficiency of conducting these intercomparisons. And proposals should identify minimum data sets required, the geographic scope of the models, the ecosystems types to which the models can be applied, the initial condition requirements for the model, as well as any critical model assumptions. If you have specific questions about any of these topic areas, you can find the contact information for the specific program manager listed in the topic area, and we encourage you to contact them directly. Next, we have our DoD specific topic areas, and these are more broad, as Ann mentioned. We have them in 4 areas. Our first one presented here is under environmental restoration, and there are 5 topics under this program area. First is monitoring, in which we're asking for technologies that can assess for the assessment or long-term monitoring of chemical contamination or biogeochemical indicators in soil, sediments, and water. The next one is the reduction in cost to complete, in which we're looking for ways to reduce the cost to complete for contaminated groundwater or aquatic sediments by improving performance assessment or optimizing treatment. The third one is reduction of source loading of munitions constituents, and this is highly related to the topic area under the broad agency announcement. And as with that one, we strongly encourage you to look at the workshop report that was published in the fall based on the results from the summer workshop. The fourth area is stormwater treatment, and the final one is wastewater treatment. Our next area is under munitions response in underwater environments, and two main areas are of interest here: wide area and detailed surveys, where we're looking for rapid assessment of large areas to identify concentrations of munitions and areas free of munitions. And these must provide high aerial coverage rates, but may be successful with only modest probabilities of detection and classification. The last area under this topic is cost-effective recovery and disposal. Our next topic area is under resource conservation, and we have two areas here, one under natural resources and the other under air quality. Under natural resources, we're looking for technologies for the sustainable management of natural resources on DoD installations, including ecological systems, living marine resources ecology and management, as well as species ecology and management. DoD investigators are also encouraged to review the topic areas under the broad agency announcement and look at specific issues that were listed under those topic areas against which they can propose. Our final DoD topic area is under the Weapons System and Platforms program area. We have four main areas under this. The first is under manufacturing and maintenance, in which we're looking for alternative materials, processes, and inspection methodologies, as well as monitoring and control of emissions. We're also looking for green energetics, under which we're looking for alternative materials and manufacturing processes, as well as monitoring and control of emissions there also. We're also looking at waste reduction, specifically under in ships and forward operating bases. And then finally, we're looking under lead-free electronics. At this point, I'll turn it back to Anne to discuss the FY17 topic areas under the installation, energy, and water area.
Thank you, Andrea. So this year we put out both the energy and environment ESTCP solicitations at the same time. I think it's important to emphasize that they are two separate solicitations, and you need to make sure that when you go in to submit a proposal and to look at the instructions that you look at the appropriate solicitation. So these last two topic areas are specifically under installation, energy, and water. And these topic areas are applicable to the broad agency announcement, the federal call for proposals outside DoD, and the DoD call for proposals. The first of these is energy efficiency for military buildings. Here we're looking for demonstrations of innovative approaches to improve the energy efficiencies of buildings on military installations. We have a list here of technologies of interest, but this is not a limiting list, including improved commissioning, HVAC performance, building envelope, management and control, and lighting. And we highlight in this topic area one area that's of particular interest, which is demonstrations of innovative approaches to holistic interior lighting retrofits. Here we're looking to maximize energy efficiency and cost savings with advanced lighting technologies of our office buildings and high bay applications. It's important to note here that we're not looking for demonstrations of simple lamp replacements where savings are well understood and well defined, but we're looking for more holistic approaches involving controls and in addition to that. The second topic area is related to water, specifically improving our water use for military industrial operations, many of which are very water intensive. Here we're looking for demonstrations of innovative approaches to more efficient use of water and its associated energy in surface finishing and repair industrial operations on DoD installations. We're looking to reduce water use or to allow for the safe and cost-effective reuse in all phases of the operations in our military industrial facilities. Demonstrations with the following characteristics are preferable: adaptability and applicability across multiple DoD installations, high water and associated energy savings, potential high savings to investment ratio, and a clear pathway to technology adoption. Those are the last of the topic areas. Now we have just a few more charts that should give you some pointers on preparation of pre-proposals. First, we'll talk about selection criteria. The first two selection criteria listed on this chart, relevance and whether a technology is appropriate for demonstration, are pass-fail gates. So as far as relevance, we're looking to see whether a proposal is responsive to one of the topic areas relevant to the solicitation. And secondly, we're looking for something that's appropriate for a demonstration. So projects that are, proposed projects that are basic and applied research will not pass that gate, as similarly proposed projects that are demonstrations of commercially available, well-understood technologies would not pass that gate. Once we've determined that a proposal is responsive and it's through those two gates, the selection criteria are technical merit, cost-benefit of the application of the technology, transition potential, and the cost of the proposal. And specifically on the cost of the proposal, here we're looking for an appropriate cost to the level of effort that's required to do the job. And finally, for BAA proposals, we are also required to consider small business participation, and this is addressed in a full proposal if it's requested. It's not required for the pre-proposal. The last chart, we'll just walk through some of the hallmarks of a competitive proposal. We want a proposal that clearly addresses a topic area. We want well-defined demonstration questions. And that means what it is about the performance of the technology that requires a demonstration, and specifically why would DoD be interested in the results of such a demonstration. We want technologies that will provide significant benefit, reduce costs, improve performance. And we're looking for proposals that are technically sound with detailed technology descriptions so that we can understand the basic operability of the technology, well-defined performance objectives, and a detailed technical approach of how the demonstration would gather the relevant information that's needed. So that concludes the webinar of we're going through the charts. The last chart here is a link to the ESTCP website where you can find all of the information about the solicitation. So I'll turn it back to Stephanie.
Thank you, Anne. We have had a number of questions. We will answer as many questions as time permits, focusing on those that are generally applicable to all submitters or logistical in nature. Please note that we will not be able to answer questions about specific proposal ideas or technologies during this webinar. One of the first questions is, can a non-DoD organization participate on a proposal responding to the DoD call for proposals?
Yes. The only requirement there is that the lead investigator be with the DoD, but he or she can create a team made up of non-DoD organizations.
Okay. What are the typical funding levels of ESTCP demonstration projects?
We don't prescribe in advance what funding level should be. You should propose what is required to do the work that's needed to do the evaluation. That said, typical ESTCP projects will run somewhere in the maybe $150,000 to as much as $500,000 a year for a couple of years, but there's a great deal of variability in there, and there are projects that are outside of those general guidelines as well.
Is there a typical length for an ESTCP demonstration?
We do not specify what the length of a demonstration should be. However, I would say the average is roughly about 3 years from start to finish. That would, of course, include time for preparation of the demonstration plan as well as time for preparation of the final reports.
Does ESTCP contract directly with non-federal co-performers?
No. If a proposal comes in under either the DoD call or the call to federal organizations outside of DoD, the lead organization is expected to contract with any subcontractors.
Is cost sharing a requirement for ESTCP projects?
It is not a requirement. However, certainly cost leveraging is always attractive, and if that's possible, it should be mentioned in the proposal.
Are overseas installations appropriate for ESTCP demonstrations?
There's no, so ESTCP's mission is environmental issues on DoD installations. We have environmental issues on installations abroad that are applicable to ESTCP, but generally our concentration has been on domestic installations, partly because of the cost of doing demonstrations abroad, and we would really need a very good reason why we would do a demonstration at a non-United States installation.
Can a DoD organization submit a proposal that responds to a BAA topic?
DoD proposers should submit proposals that respond to the DoD topic areas. However, the DoD topic areas are quite broad and most likely encompass any of the topic areas that are released under the BAA. So certainly a DoD proposer should or could refer to the BAA topic areas for some more specific details of topics of interest to ESTCP.
For the energy efficiency topic, will proposals that address the holistic lighting requirement be weighted above proposals that respond to other areas of interest?
No, not necessarily. All of the proposals will be evaluated based on the criteria that were presented on the second to the last chart, but we wanted to draw that out as an area of particular interest for this year.
Is there a list of DoD installations available for potential proposers?
We don't actually have a list of DoD installations available for proposers. However, at the pre-proposal stage, we do not require you to have a site identified. If your proposal is selected to submit a full proposal, we will assign a DoD liaison to you who will assist you with identifying or at least coming up with a short list of sites that would be applicable for your technology.
For topics that are the same for the BAA and federal calls for proposals, to which call should a team that consists of both federal and non-federal partners submit?
That's really a decision to be made by the project team. We would take a proposal either way. You can have a BAA lead with a federal co-performer, or you can have a federal lead with a subcontract to a private entity. There is no advantage to proposing through either one of those channels.
Can foreign organizations submit proposals to ESTCP?
Yes, foreign organizations are eligible to submit. They just need to follow all the same guidelines as any other submitter.
Is there a particular technology readiness level required for technologies proposed to ESTCP?
We're looking for technologies for which proof of concept has been established. So we're not looking for research projects. And we are also looking for technologies that will benefit from a demonstration, that it will provide meaningful technical information about the performance of the technology. So we're not looking for technologies that are well established and we know what their cost and performance are expected to be.
Does a demonstration site need to be identified in the pre-proposal?
Just to reiterate, you do not need to identify your site at the pre-proposal stage. We will provide assistance to non-DoD submitters, and we will assign a DoD liaison to you if we ask you for a full proposal, and that liaison will be able to assist you with coming up with a short list of applicable sites.
Can any final development or formulation work be included in an ESTCP demonstration project?
There's a little bit of room for such things. So generally, we would want the technology to be sufficiently developed that we're still not doing some sort of exploratory science at the initiation of an ESTCP project. But if there is final design work to be done, that's a perfectly acceptable starting point for an ESTCP project. Generally, there's not a hard and fast rule about this, but generally our rule of thumb is we expect that the technology is in such a condition that it can be doing a demonstration within the first year.
Can multiple proposals be submitted by the same organization?
Yes, there's no limit to the number of pre-proposals that are submitted by a single organization or an individual.
Can proposals submitted in previous years but not funded be submitted again this year?
Yes, if they are applicable to one of the topic areas. So in general, the DoD topic areas are quite broad, and it's likely that a proposal would still be applicable. The BAA and call for federal proposals outside of DoD change considerably from year to year, so it's likely that that a prior year's proposal would not be responsive to one of those topic areas.
Can assistance in identifying interested DoD partners be provided to non-federal organizations who have a technology that is appropriate for the DoD call for proposals? And is there assistance provided during the pre-proposal stage?
We do not get involved in partnering private sector individuals with the DoD partners so that they can address the DoD call. If you have a technology appropriate for the DoD call, you would need to make that contact.
Will feedback be provided on pre-proposals that are not selected?
No, unfortunately, we get a very large number of proposals and have a very small staff, and we are simply unable to provide specific feedback to each proposer.
Is a draft demonstration plan required as part of the full proposal?
No, the draft demonstration plan is not required as part of the full proposal. However, it is useful to review the demonstration plan guidelines, which are available on our website, to see what sort of performance metrics we'd like to see, and I think that can help structure a full proposal so that you can show what your performance metrics are.
Regarding the energy efficiency for military buildings category, is there a particular type of building in which you're looking to address energy efficiency issues?
No. Really, DoD has a wide variety of building stocks that vary from barracks to hospitals to industrial facilities, and any of those would be of interest to us. For proposers who would like more familiarity with DoD's building stock, a prior ESTCP project did compile a inventory of sorts of the types of buildings that DoD has and the breakdown of the numbers of those kinds of buildings. So that would be available and might be of interest as you're thinking this through.
Are technical reports, including the final technical report, publicly disclosed by ESTCP?
Final deliverables are typically all are publicly available and posted on our website. There are times when a document may include proprietary information, in which case it's published on DTIC, but other than that, most documents are publicly available.
The Energy and Water Solicitation Topic 2, are Army ammunition plants considered acceptable demonstration sites?
The topic was really aimed at surface finishing and repair operations, not at ordnance manufacturing operations.
What happens to the demonstrated technology following the completion of a demonstration project?
I'm not completely sure what the purpose of the question. When we complete a project, we have certain documents that are required, a final report, a cost and performance report, and typically we also, as appropriate, there may be guidance documents, lessons learned, documents of that nature that are all posted on our website. We also strongly encourage and usually build into the project the technology transfer of that technology through presentations or other sorts of means to get the technology out to the public sector and out into the end user. So in that sense, that's what happens to the technology. We don't really market these technologies, but we do encourage the investigator to assist with the technology transfer.
I guess maybe I read that a little differently, and I'll answer a different question that might be what they meant. If what you're asking is what happens to a particular piece of hardware, things that are acquired by the government are government property. The energy solicitations in particular are very specific about that at the end of a project, an installed technology will remain with the installation unless the installation requests to have it removed. Other hardware that might be developed under ESTCP, we really handle on an individual basis depending on the value of the item at the end of the demonstration.
Okay, this is a question for non-federal pre-proposals. Should the estimate of funding include the DoD demonstration site personnel involved in the program?
Typically, we will provide funding for labor for DoD personnel. It tends to depend on the DoD personnel in terms of what their position is, but that it is possible to reimburse them for labor, certainly for travel costs and things like that also.
Where will the pre-proposal selection briefing take place?
So just to be clear, the selection briefing is only for those who are asked to submit a full proposal. There is no briefing at the time that the pre-proposal is submitted. For those that are submitting full proposals and doing briefings, they take place in the Northern Virginia, Washington, D.C. area.
Are ESTCP projects limited to just innovative technology, or do innovative methodologies also apply?
Definitely innovative methodologies also can be applicable under some of those topic areas.
Is a small business partner an absolute necessity?
For the rules on this are somewhat complicated. For proposals coming from the private sector, the government has a goal that small businesses shall receive up to in excess of 5% of the value of a project. That's a goal, it's not a strict requirement. But for proposals over $650,000, a small business participation plan is a requirement, and there is an expectation that those goals will be met.
Should the primary PI be employed by DoD?
The primary PI should be employed by the DoD only if you are responding to the DoD topics that are listed. For all other people, they should respond to the topic areas listed under the BAA.
Will prior startup awardees receive preference for ESTCP proposals? No, there's no a priori preference given to projects that originated in startup. That said, a project that has had a successful startup development and has gathered the data through startup to support an ESTCP proposal, that certainly would be taken into consideration. But we view ESTCP as a clean start, and all of the proposals compete equally.
Is there a page limit for the pre-proposal? Are there any templates or examples of successful proposals available?
There is a page limit for the pre-proposal. We have fairly strict guidelines for how to prepare that pre-proposal, and I would instead direct you to the guidelines for preparing a pre-proposal that are listed on our website. We also have attachments that are allowed, et cetera, and I would go through that carefully. We do not provide templates or examples of successful proposals.
What is the programmatic funding level for 2017 awards?
Unfortunately, we don't know the answer to that yet. The 2017 budget process has only just begun, so we just can't answer that question.
Is a technology demonstration project that is currently funded by a state agency and validated by a national research lab eligible for ESTCP funding?
It could certainly be eligible for ESTCP funding. It would be important to make note that additional demonstration by ESTCP is still warranted if there's already been a substantial amount of demonstration conducted by another agency.
Are expeditionary installations or forward operating bases acceptable demonstration sites?
We would anticipate that any technologies that are applicable to forward operating bases, we would want to do the technology demonstration initially in the United States at an installation here, but under realistic conditions, simply to understand whether the technology is successful and it would be worth any sort of worth the sort of resources that would be required to go beyond that.
What is the percentage of proposals that will be selected from the oral presentation cycle?
We really don't have a defined percentage of proposals. It really depends on the technical quality of the proposals received.
Do the DoD and BAA calls for proposals draw from the same funding source? If not, does one have larger amount of money than the other?
ESTCP has one line, and we don't have any pre-assigned division of that into private sector versus DoD. We do have in the BAA a reference to the amount we expect to award to the BAA, and I think we generally meet or exceed that. But in general, it really depends on where the quality proposals come from.
Okay. This is the last more general question that we have received. There are other questions which are more topic area or technology specific. For those questions, we ask that you contact the program manager for that specific area. Thank you for attending the webinar today. As a reminder, the presentation and audio will be archived for future reference on the ESTCP Solicitation webpage. This concludes today's webcast.